happens when you mirror moves because of the asymmetrical hold, and then how do you apply, it's actually a very small vocabulary if you think about it, but infinitely
Combinations.
combinable, yeah. So that was what I focused on when I did teach. But also having learned from lots of other people, some of them amazing teachers, I am a lot less confident in teaching now than I ever was, of course.
You mentioned nuevo, coming from the area, because you're a very flowy dancer. For a lot of people, nuevo, kind of sits in the tango techno era almost, where nuevo is starting to revive again. But now more understand it as technique rather than the whole music thing as well. So you see more nuevo movement within traditional music, which allows a different form of expression. The difficult thing, of course, is that nuevo requires more discipline.
More body awareness
yes.
and ability, Yeah, it does require more ability in the body. Yeah.
So, do you do other forms of conditioning?
I do yoga. Thank you, Frances. She's my one and only teacher. That's all I do. And I do a lot of walking. I walk.
Yeah, which is terribly important, of course. But yoga is a big part, I guess, for a lot of people to do something that's body conscious.
It had a huge impact on my dance. I haven't always done yoga. Early on, it was just dance. Some other form of dance was what I was doing. It was various dances all at the same time. And we did have, actually in the university club, we had ballet classes because we thought, we were between, 18 and 20 something. And we thought actually we would like to learn a little bit more core technique. And that's when we had someone come and give us ballet lessons. So that was actually probably quite useful because I would have said I really didn't know how to use my back and my, middle of my body that well. I danced with my legs at the time. That's all I did. I danced with my legs. And it's some of it, those ballet lessons, and a lot of it, my yoga lessons, that actually helped me find my back. Like I have a back. It's right here.
Yeah.
And actually dance a lot more with my, all of my body, not just the legs.
Which is really important, I think, because a lot of people only dance with their legs.
Mm-hmm. If you're lucky. It might,
Yeah. So I think the conditioning part is a very important element to progress as a dancer. And to learn how to use your back and to use your core
and feet.
And feet. In a crowded floor, your feet are all the space you have. But it is a huge range. You can shift from the front to the back, from the side to the side, and in the middle, where most people probably use the same technique they use for walking, and that's just controlled falling.
Yes, just a straight.
Yeah.
One big pedal.
And that's what makes you beautiful as a dancer, because you pick up on the smallest shift. If I shift from my big toe to my little toe, you will pick up on it. But you also communicate that back. It's very clear when you arrive somewhere, so I can stop leading and have to change if I want to, or that we go to silence.
And for that, we can thank Matthew and Sarah. Some years ago, when I first came to New Zealand, probably the first year or maybe second, Matthew and Sarah came to Christchurch and had some lessons, and I had one private lesson with them. And at the time, I was dancing a bit like how I used to dance ballroom, which is not correct either. I wouldn't want to blame ballroom for it. which was where I would read the leader and then I would just adjust without letting them know what I'd done. I'd just catch up and adjust. And Matthew said, I have no idea where you are. Are you on your right? Are you on your left? And I was like, does it matter? I'm catching up with you. I said, yes, it does matter. So the two of them showed me how it was actually a desired thing, that where my weight was known by the leader. So I actually specifically remember, so many lessons to remember, but that one was very important. So I've learnt that. It wasn't intuitive to me.
Yes, that it is desirable, and it's like you said, a lot of followers will compensate and adjust that way and think they have to keep up.
Yeah, I thought that was what I was supposed to do. It's not obvious that tango is actually almost the opposite. Tango is a continuous feedback loop. It's not I say this and then we just arrive somehow.
No, so and that's that's the whole follow lead is always a challenging term because it is a loop.
Yeah, and the tighter the loop, the better the dance.
Yes.
Like what you were describing before, if you're changing your weight from your big toe to the little toe, and if I'm also responding in some way, that means, we've created a very tight feedback loop, and then you felt that and you did something else. Yeah, the tighter the loop, I guess the richer the dance. Instead of having, okay, I say, move, I moved, next one, and the next one.
Yeah. But you have to move through your whole body, and it's for me personally at the moment, it's very challenging to have to compensate a lot of things. But then, because the feedback loop is tight, I can start using other elements of my body to still communicate it. You don't lead, do you?
No. I'm ashamed. I would like to. Would I like to? Maybe I don't know. Well, I enjoy following so much. I think that I haven't had enough motivation to lead. And whilst, a few people would have heard this, my excuse, and it is an excuse, my excuse is that when I'm following, I can be more right in the present, whereas to lead, because obviously I've tried, I've done every now and then, to lead, I have to be a little bit ahead. Like I have to be a little bit more in the future.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like playing an instrument, you're reading the notes ahead of what you're actually playing, which I'm sure at some point, when you're skilled enough, it becomes your present as well. But I'm not patient enough to kind of make that being in the future become my present in the leading. And the following is so much fun that I haven't put in enough effort to leading. I am a little bit embarrassed about that.
No, I think as long as you're honest about the fact that how much you're enjoying the follow, I do like the whole future, which is true, the future thing and not being in the moment, which is a huge challenge for new leaders. You have to learn the movement and the steps and the embrace and being close to someone, and then have to think ahead in the music and look at traffic on the floor.
As I said before, I don't know how we have the number of dances we do have. Like, I don't know how we ever go past those things.
But
we do. It's possible.
It's possible,
it
but
happens.
it's a challenge to grow leaders that way.
Yeah. It's not that different to followers. Following is not that much easier.
No, it's not that much easier, but
it's easier to get by early on, I guess. I guess following is like the English of the languages. That it's easy to learn the hello, how are you, how do you do, this is a table kind of level of following. It is easier to do that level of leading, I guess, which is why early on there's higher pressure on the leaders in a class. But then followers have the same challenges in that they also need to be reading the leader, listening to the music, expressing, hopefully, doing something with their body, moving their own body, not being moved by someone else, which is another, I guess, misconception. Sometimes you think you have to be moved by someone, but no, you're moving yourself. Like I remember first so many years of my dancing was I purely focused on the leader, and music I barely heard, I'd say. There's the being in the music because I was already dancing, and the whole, what we talked about earlier, that moving to music wasn't a new concept. So I was probably not out of music, but I wasn't really listening to the music for a long time because just following the leader took so much of my headspace. So when I finally found some headspace to trust that I am following enough that I can also start doing something with the music, like that was a revolution in my own dance life. And it took a long time,
But
very long time.
you do listen to music.
I absolutely listen to the music. Now I listen to the music more in terms of where my attention is.
Because quite often some followers feel like, well, I don't have to train myself to music so much because the lead will guide me through it. But
for the rhythm, yes, but music is more than the rhythm.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the case. You'll be fine. The leader will put you at the right time. But you said it yourself earlier that dance is between the steps. It totally is between the steps. It's in how you take the step and how you go from one step to another, what happens in your body. And that's where you have to listen to music.
Yes.
How you arrive on that beat is something you need, I think, something you need to do according to the music.
Yes, and so you can only do that if you know the music and listen to the music outside the actual dance.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, because I dance so much, I can't say I've trained myself to listen to tango at times other than dancing. But because I've been dancing such a long time, and
you know it by now.
Often I do know most music by now. But it's probably also partly, as I've confessed earlier, I'm terrible with self-motivation, so something I have to do on my own is very hard.
But it's very clear when someone knows the music. Because, like I said, the moments in between, they're allowed to control, and you get a different loop. If someone knows the music and the phrase is catching up, and you pause, and you can feel that she's ready to go, and just hold on for the next.
This test.
It's not. It's just this little fun bit. This one we go. Or the opposite, where you kind of leave the room, and because the music, you can feel that someone feels music, and they play with it.
Yeah, absolutely. From the follower's perspective, if I realize that the person's listening to the music, and knows the music, then I'm a lot freer to do additional things to the music because I know that they won't be taken by surprise. If I do a little dibba feet to the music that's about to come, I know that they won't be completely shocked because they will hear it and they'll know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and they'll find a way to accommodate. And it's definitely more of a. I think it's probably more musicality than body ability, even like the ability to accommodate a follower that's expressing parts of the music, which is not the beat. I think comes down to your ear rather than your body.
Part of it, yes.
Mostly.
It's
you obviously
definitely
need
awareness
both.
of the music.
You need both.
Yeah. And you can allow the space for that based on, which kind of touches to something else we talked about, was that said, well, because of my own situation, that first tried to just follow the music and work with it in my best capabilities. But now you kind of get past that, and I'm dancing more in the follower.
You are.
So it's almost a lazy part where you kind of, just create the space for the follower to do her thing. But I have to be really conscious of, okay, where she moves and how she moves. You said something that you dance differently if someone allows for that.
Well, I want to be careful about saying allowing and giving space, because on occasion I've experienced leaders kind of stopping when there is a flurry bit in the music. They hear it, they stop, and then they're waiting for me to do something.
Yeah, and
So I guess giving space isn't quite that.
no,
And allowing is not. It's not like an explicit allow. Okay, now I've allowed. Now you do it. It's more.
no, that's two different things, I think, because the allowing space, and I know what you mean. Someone said, the leader just said, "Oh, here you can do your thing" or something. It's like it doesn't work like that.
Can do.
It can,
sometimes.
and it does step like you just said. Well, you can do a little tippy thing, and we actually had that. I recall recently, but it's not only allowing the space, but also indicating that's what happened. Because if you slightly higher feel with when the steps are smaller, you feel that it's all the movements will be shorter.
Yeah.
And tap into that. So it's not necessarily allowing your own thing, it's just guiding the rhythm the way. But I mean, dancing in you kind of being more in tune with where your body is moving. And you seem to feel it, you say. So how is that different from other leading and dancing?
Yes. So I guess closest thing I can think of is that the way you're leading at the moment is you're asking open questions to me, in the dance, and then you're listening really carefully how I'm answering the question. So you're still the one who asks the questions. It's the direction is there, and the music is the context of the question, I guess. Yeah. And then you are extremely attentive to how I'm answering that question. When you're a beginner in your beginner class, the teacher very annoyingly says, "Oh no, it's just an invitation and a." Invitation and a response, and you think, what on earth are you talking about? At that time, it feels like an impossible thing to respond in any other way. But as you progress and get experience, you know that there are so many different ways to respond to the same question or the same lead, and still stay within the unity of the dance and the music. So, I feel. In you, there's the heightened listening, because when I feel that you are listening, then I also become, I talk more clearly, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh, he's listening, so I better speak clearly, and also in a way that I can also start asking open questions myself with whatever I do. I might do something that you could take this way or the other way, or turn it, or I can decide, the music is just so strong and I'm just going to do this, and I might do something quite sharp, right? And when you lead like you're describing through the follower, then it opens up all of those additional possibilities where the feedback loop, the tight feedback loop that we talked about, becomes more interesting, because the follower has a little bit more ability to influence it more than usual. I think I have a lot of ability to influence. When I say I like following so much, I don't think following is a passive thing at all. It's super active for me. So I do it already, but with sometimes if the leader is extra attentive, then it becomes even more interesting.
So with more experienced dancers, you would have more influence than with beginner dancers.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. More conversational.
Yeah.
More conversational. Or, the proportion of who's speaking is, with a beginner, the beginner might be speaking more and I might be speaking less. And as the levels adjust, then you can speak equal amounts.
Yeah. Each dance has its feel that way. Because, if you had a dance that was had a very close loop, does that influence the dance you have after? Or
Like in the milonga situation, from one tanda to another. Yeah, it used to be that sometimes, like, I needed to either like have space after a certain dance, or occasionally, you'll hear people, men and women, they'll say, "Oh, now I can go home now because they've had a really nice dance." I used to have those moments. I don't as much these days. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe there's a certain recovery. It's a recovery, isn't it? It's a recovery after something really nice.
Yeah.
Perhaps I recover faster, perhaps now. I don't know.
But is it the recovery, or is it because, well, it can be two things. Because, like, just like you said, the people say, well, I can go home now, because you kind of, it's a fulfillment.
Yeah.
So you could spoil it with the next experience. So it's not necessarily recovery, but
Yeah, well, I use recovery to make an analogy to physical activity. When you do something, run up the stairs, and then initially you need like 5 minutes before you catch your breath again, and then if you're a bit fitter, then you only need 2 minutes to catch your breath again. I was kind of drawing some sort of parallel to that rather than actually recovering from an experience. But yes, the fulfillment-wise, I don't think, I haven't lost fulfillment. I think, I'm able to store that fulfillment faster, maybe.
That's interesting.
Like, or process it deeper and faster, and then I'm ready to move on to another one. It's like most of the time. So it happens a lot less these days. It used to be that I needed a bit more processing time for that fulfillment feeling to kind of sit with me, and not like, so that the next dance didn't feel like ruining it.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair to the person you're dancing with next to, to put them this weight of, I just had this amazing dance and you have to live up, so
you don't hold the sign up.
but people watch each other, you can sometimes see.
But, it can sometimes take months for people to find tango bliss. So if they, and some people go on a trip and have it once, and sometimes it happens every night. It's like, but if you have it, you might want to sit down.
Yeah, no, as I said, for some, I haven't thought about it in depth, but I can store. I think it's the storage. I can hold on to the fulfillment in me in a different place without it being in danger of being ruined by the next dance.
Oh, that's nice, because it gives you more opportunities.
Exactly. Well, then I can
Yeah.
keep dancing.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that allows you to keep dancing, of course, is that your feet keep going. And you have an interesting habit. Apparently you bring different heights of shoes.
Yes, I drop height as I go in the milonga. But I mean, most recently I've just gone with the lower one.
Right.
But yeah, that's the only thing I've found personally, is to gradually decrease the height of my shoes. It makes a difference. Well, one, it definitely puts less weight on your balls of your feet, but also as you change height of heel, your different parts of your feet get activated as you walk. Even if you just change shoes, you would feel different, right? So,
well, it's not only your feet, but your posture changes.
Everything, all of it probably changes. So, but I've been lazy and just going with the lowest heel these days.
Lowest being these days?
Lowest that I have, I think 7 or 7.5, something like that.
And the highest you done some?
I haven't danced high for a long time. I have quite high ones. I don't know.
But I mean, if
These days I just won't dance with really high heels.
No, but if you
I do now,
if you change over the night, what do you change from? What heights do you change over?
I think the one that I will still wear that is amongst the highest must be about 8.5. So it must be between 8.5, 8, 7.5, that kind of range.
Do you dance flats?
I can dance flats, but a lot of the time with most leaders, a little bit of heel I find is actually easier. For me to be really comfortable with flats, I need kind of the leader to be quite a
straight
knee. No, I need the leader to use their knees more if I'm on flats, like a little bit more spring.
Or
I think I'm speculating a bit.
Is it, or do you need the embrace to change? Because more open embrace would work easier. So you're not being pulled forward, possibly.
I associate it with stiffness. I mean, I haven't really thought this through, but my speculation right now is that I associate having to wear heels with slightly stiffer dance than flatter shoes is more malleable in the leader's body as well.
Yeah.
Somehow, that's my association. Like, I need the leader to be using their feet and knees really well as well. If they're not, then heels seem to be better. Well, when you don't have the heels, your foot needs to go a lot further down to go down, right? Or you're tippy toes all the time.
Well, do you need to? Because I remember the session with Murat and Michelle at the time, and he was going on about the fact that you don't need to try to mimic heels if you're going to wear flat shoes. Wear flat shoes, put your heels down, and only lift enough to pivot.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
But that changes the whole dynamic, and not all leaders, or I can't so far adjust to all leaders with that changed dynamic.
Yeah, but
not being on tippy toes on flat shoes definitely changes the dynamic of my dance, and I don't know. Maybe I should try more. There you go, a challenge.
Yeah, work on it.
There's a challenge. Yeah.
Heel down in the step. Because that's a lot of followers kind of end up constantly on the ball of the foot and struggling with their balance, and also not communicating the heel coming down and being grounded at that point.
Yep. I do it?
Like, do you?
I do it. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But it has taken quite a while to adjust to it. So for a while, I had decided to do it. I didn't do it for a long time. For a long time, I was mostly tippy toes, tiny bit of heel down. And then I realized, now I can't remember if it was just on my own or if I had seen something, possibly I had. And I realized, actually, I don't need to, and I'm not going to. It does change where you are, in terms of where you are in your axis. Puts you slightly back, which some people might not even notice, of course. But for me, it was a very big change. Like, it was a huge, it felt like a huge shift in my axis to put my heel down.
Did you start to compensate that by bending your knees slightly more to?
No, I just basically danced there, back. And then I realized that was too much back. Then I had to find a way to still put the heel down, but shift the axis slightly more middle, and at times forward to receive better. Like, I couldn't receive as much when I was fully back. It's an ongoing challenge to find exactly where to put yourself, and sometimes with who does it happen with? I won't be able to pinpoint it now, but occasionally now still I find with some leaders I do have to be a lot more forward, and that's the most comfortable place for the couple.
Yeah.
And with others it's more flexible where I can be.
We've chatted a fair amount of time. It's, thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
It's fun.
Is there anything you might want to reveal while you're here?
More revelations? No, I don't know. I thought about what are 3 things that I would like to say. I'm not that important to say 3 things to the world. No, there's nothing. We talked about. I was thinking, what do I get asked about? And I get asked occasionally, how do I dance with everyone? Or how come do I dance with everyone? And like my answer is like, how come you don't dance with everyone? To me, that's the only thing to do. And that's why I dance, because of the variety and the delight that I find in every different person. And then the other thing is that I'm very open to talking about anything. Mm-hmm. I'm very happy to discuss or try and explain anything that anyone thinks they see in me, and if I'm aware of it, I'm always open to discussing it. It might not be directly analytical. It might be like how we talked before. It might be very analogous, like in analogy to something else. But yeah, I love talking about it. That's all I say.
We'll leave you in safe zones there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a joy.